Are you tired of giant rule books just sitting on your shelf gathering dust? Well, today we're going to talk about how Mythic lets you crack into these rule books, any kind of TTRPG, with zero prep and max vibes just to learn that bad boy. Let's break it down. Hi, hello, everybody. My name is Turk. Welcome back here to the Grouch Couch, dude. Around here, we do all different kinds of weird TTRPG things. But today, my friends, we're breaking down into Mythic Magazine number 6, the back half this time, just to learn a little bit of how we can learn any different TTRPG by using Mythic. We can learn Mythic, and then once we know Mythic, we can learn any different kind of TTRPG. And the best thing about this, too, is say you have an upcoming campaign coming with, a bunch of different players, and you don't want to let them down. You want to make sure that you're going to learn this system before you sit down and play with them. You could do it super easy and lazily play Mythic with that system just to learn it, and then you're prepped and ready to go for that session. So, can you learn Mythic to help you learn a new RPG? I think you can. Let's break it down even more. Before we get into this beautiful PDF right here, we're going to talk a little bit about why learning new games straight up feels like homework. But before we do that, I want to let you know that you want to pick up this magazine right here or any other kind of Mythic stuff or any TTRPG supplements. You can use our links down in the description to DriveThruRPG or even to Amazon. And if you pick up stuff using our links, it helps support the show. Thank you guys so much for doing that. It really allows us to keep doing more stuff like this. Yeah. So the writer of this thing goes into some really good examples as to why it feels like homework and stuff like that. But let's be real right here, bro. Most solo players are always asking ourselves the same thing. Is this game right here too crunchy to do solo? Would it even be fun? Because we want it to flow when we're playing by ourselves, right? Because if the game itself has 300 pages of gear and damage types and rules on how to sneeze underwater, you're gonna bounce off hard. You know what I mean? But that's not what Mythic was meant for, right? Mythic is here to let you play whatever game that you want to be able to play, no matter how crunchy that it is, no matter how forgotten that it's been on your shelf. You don't need to know everything, right? You just need to know the vibe of this book. The writer of this magazine honestly says it best. The bookshelves of many worlds. The deck of many bookshelves, if you were, right? In my home, I have several large bookshelves that hold many of a role-playing collection. This isn't my entire collection of the games I don't want to play anymore. Get shuttled off to sort of an island between broken toys location. The shelves are stuffed with games I want to play, even though many of them are games I bought and barely have even looked inside. But when I look up a game to play a solo adventure, I often lack the will to go and find an entire RPG and learn it first. Right? I totally get that. One last thing I want to point out in this magazine before we move on, and first of all, this is number 6, which also has a bunch of awesome ways to create mystery adventures. Like I said, I have a video on that as well if you want to check it out. Cool, but let's move on here. This part right here made me laugh. You invite a bunch of role players over to your house and you say, hey, do you want to play a game? Of course, all of them are going to say yes. But then when you pull out the rule book and slap this hefty tome in front of them, a 250 plus page juggernaut that would make most people's eyes go large, is they would look at you like you were joking. Now, switch this scenario and replace that average game player with your average role player. Instead of looking on the rule book with horror, they're more likely to be excited to get their hands on it and look inside. A couple of 100 pages of rules is pure gold. 300, 400, the more the better. We love our hobby. We love our games. We love seeing how a game approaches this subject matter. It's very fun, right? However, it's a lot to get into, I think, even for role players, right? So the first thing we want to do is we want to capture flavor, which brings me over to my notes. Step 1, we're going to capture the flavor, dude. Before we open that rule book that we have, we're going to ask, right, these questions. What does the cover art say? What is the tagline? Does it scream dungeon crawl, noir detective, or anime sword fight drama? Because those are the things that are going to be pushing our solo games forward, right? Either if we're prepping to play with a bunch of people, I mean, this is kind of irrelevant in that situation, but if we're playing solo, we want to think about the flavor of this book that we're going to get into. Because whenever we're getting into a solo game, it could be whatever game we want to play, as long as it matches the flavor that we want to get into at that specific time, right? So let that flavor wash over you. Flip through the pages just randomly. Read some headers. Don't even study this bad boy. Just absorb the idea of it, right? Example, you're going to pick up a book called Tome Breakers, and the tagline in it says, some things were never meant to be known. You already know the tone, right? You know you're raiding tombs here, making bad choices, and it's super pulpy in that kind of vibe, right? Boom, you've got the flavor. So we know what we're getting into, which is an important thing when we move on to the next step, character creation. And look, they even got some Tome Breakers things in here. That's what I'm talking about. Beautiful example, beautiful magazine. Yes. Moving on, step 2, character creation. In here, it kind of explains a little bit that like you could half-ass your character. Honestly, it's fine. You've got the vibe, you know what you're going for, and making a character always matters most, especially when you're doing a solo play. If you're learning this system to go and play with a bunch of other people, honestly, who cares about your character? Just, you got a guy named Frank, slap him together, let's go. But even if you don't fully even understand this system yet, it's gonna help you vibe with the game. And I find no matter what game I'm playing, when I'm doing character creation, I learn a lot about that system when I'm making my character. But if character creation is long and painful, you can honestly just skip parts. For real. For example here, instead of spending an hour assigning skill points, just write archaeologist, military training, some light physical skills. So then you kind of know what your character's got going for them, right? And you're going to fill in the blanks as you play even. So the first time you come to a strength check, for example, you go, oh, well, I know that my character has some strength, so where do I get to do strength points? Got it. Then you can assign them then, right? You're like doing it as you play, easy peasy. If that makes any sense. I hope I explained that right. And really, I hope, and I know a lot of these magazines, they're just walls of text. And I know that a lot of you guys don't have the patience to like read extra supplements and stuff. And so I hope that me reading through these and summarizing them for you a little bit here in these videos, you found it helpful. Because at this point, I do have a whole playlist. I really do. If there's a certain Mythic magazine that you want to make sure I check out and summarize for you, let me know down in the comments below. And please like and subscribe because I do stuff like this all the time. And by you doing that, it helps support me and it makes me know to keep doing it. You know what I mean? So, thank you all for the support. Moving on to step 3, all right? We're talking Mythic plus vibes equals a real game, right? So once you have your character, you've got a general feel for the game, a general vibe of the game, Mythic is going to kind of take the wheel while you're playing, right? You're going to be asking fake questions to move things along instead of memorizing all of these rules, right? Say you're haggling with a relic merchant, right? But you skipped the social rules section. You honestly don't even need to know the social rules section if you don't want to. If you are learning the social rules to play with a group, then maybe at this point you're going to go back and figure it out, right? But if you're just playing solo, you could just roll on the oracle. You could say, do I convince them to lower the price? Roll on the oracle. Yes or no. You know what I mean? Boom, the game keeps on moving. And that's simple as that. At any point. And truthfully, I was looking at some other RPGs and stuff. And in the same exact vein, you could say, do I hit this guy when you're going to roll to hit? Say that you accidentally skipped the combat section. You could roll yes or no on the oracle. Yes, I hit the guy. Does he die? No. Cool. Battle continues. You keep on moving forward. But if you're learning to play with a bunch of people, in this moment, you're going to want to go back and check those rules, okay? If you're learning to play with people in this system, you are getting a general grasp of the game. I learn best by playing, right? And so just picking up solo, half-assing a character, and just jumping into some story with it, and double-checking the rules and playing as I go and learning as I go. If I'm doing it by myself, I can take all the time I need in the world, right? But if you're only playing solo and you're doing it to grasp the general vibe of this game, like Fallout, you really want to play in a Fallout world, but it's a lot of rules to read. You can play in a Fallout world with the Fallout book in front of you, using all the cool Fallout items and stuff, and all the other stuff. But if you don't know the exact rules, who cares? Roll on the oracle. Yes or no? That's what I'm talking about. You do not have to stretch the crunch of stuff in any kind of system. That's what brings me to the second part of step 3, right? Here's the hot take. You're not breaking the rules, man. You're interpreting the game through a mythic lens instead of that game system's mechanics. You're still using that game system's vibes, but you're using the mythic mechanics lens. Some mechanics, like a pool called intuition, right? In our Tomb Breakers example, is what they say in the magazine, can be loosely represented by bumping your fate odds up and down now again, right? And you could use the same thing. You use slight mechanics that you might know or have figured out by the time you get into it, but no need to nail all of it perfectly. As long as you're nailing Mythic's rules, then you're fine, right? The feel of the game is more important, I feel, than exact dice math. And it's so important when it comes to solo and role-playing and everything. You want to get the vibe and the feel of the game and know what you're playing. And as long as you're still rolling dice, you're still playing a game, right? Because this is not a creative writing exercise. We're still playing a TTRPG, right? So you still want to be rolling dice. You got the yes or no questions, and that is what is important. Which brings me to number 4 in my notes here for you. You're going to want to layer in the rules later, right? This is the super magic move that we've got here. Each time you play this game again, you're going to read a couple more rules that you might not know from last time, right? That's it. Just 1 or 2. So you're learning as you're playing, right? We're still getting the vibe of the game. We're still developing our story, which is keeping our interest. We're not having to read 500 pages before we even start playing. We're starting to play and we're learning the rules each session, right? Maybe at this point now, you're going to learn how haggling actually works, and you're going to go back and update your character sheet, right? Or you finally read how the intuition plays are meant to work, or how combat works. You finally read it this time around before you jump in your session this time. And you're going to layer in all the rules slowly, right? And the game is going to naturally level up with you. You're not just learning a game, you're living it session by session, right? It's chill and it's fun, and it's actually going to stick in your head because you're going to be learning little bits here and there. There's a rule of 4s when it comes to human brains, right? After 4 things, we have to go back and re-reference, because until things settle in the back of our brains and we remember them long term, you've got 4 things, man. So maybe learn 4 things and then each session learn 4 more, right? So let's wrap up this thing, right? You can now learn an RPG using Mythic just from the advice in this magazine. It doesn't provide you with any mechanics or structure in this magazine. It just gives you some general ideas on how to maybe do this thing yourself, right? Hell yeah, don't wait to know it all. That's all I'm saying. Just grab that dusty old game, pick it up and play it a little bit, right? See if you actually enjoy it. Learn a couple of rules, play it, learn a couple more rules, play it some more. It's all about keeping the game fun and fast. And if you ever need to replace any rules that you don't understand ever, just roll yes or no on the Oracle. That's it. Every single time, right? It's about being fun and fast. It's not perfect. And maybe, yeah, it's breaking the rules. And you know what? Maybe you don't agree with me, because maybe it's not for everyone, all right? Because even in this PDF right here, at the bottom, it says, this is not the way. Or is it? I mentioned at the beginning of this article that the approach I present here may not be to everyone's liking, as it may take you too far afield from the RPG you're playing and how it's supposed to work. I completely understand. I don't use this approach with every game. There are games where I want to digest all the rules and crunch first. Or maybe I'm picking up an old RPG I haven't played in a while and find it disturbing to replace the rules I almost remember and I know, right, that I love, but not quite. I recommend this approach to learning a new RPG with Mythic if you're pressed for time and would rather use that time to play instead of read. I also suggest it if you are okay with interpreting a game instead of playing it exactly as intended. Happy adventuring. I love that. It's the best kind of way to summarize this video and to end it. And I know this was a quick, short, and shiny video, my friends, but I was reading through this and I had to cover it because I just thought it was too much fun. You know what I mean? My friends, let me know if you want me to cover any more Mythic magazines. But for now, use all the links in the description to help support the show. Check out other things that we do. There's more videos. I really do appreciate you, nerds. And take a seat on the couch and roll initiative, at least for a little while. Roll on that, weirdos. See you next time.